Tonight, it's being touted as the end of the cod moratorium. We look at what the numbers really mean. And for now, Mother Nature is keeping the forest fire in Churchill Falls at bay.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We begin tonight with the developing situation in Labrador. Churchill Falls is home to one of North America's largest power plants, and this evening forest fires are still on the doorstep. Peter Cowan has been following this story since the start, and he joins us now from our newsroom. So Peter, what's the latest on this?
Well, Carolyn, it looks like Mother Nature is finally cooperating with rain and cooler temperatures today. It's helping firefighters battle the flames and keep them away from Churchill Falls as crews deal with another fallout from the fires: power outages. When flames roared through Labrador yesterday, they took out a key transmission line, plunging Labrador West into darkness. This cafe is closed. The generator is the only thing keeping thousands of dollars of food from spoiling.
You have $30,000 or $40,000 worth of refrigerated or frozen material in your restaurant, and you have no electricity. It's very difficult to try and keep that frozen and refrigerated.
People who needed lunch stopped into the Salvation Army. In Wabush, without power, water isn't safe to drink, but the brewery has clean water thanks to a filtration system.
Well, I got no clean water in Wabush, so come over here, always a slight chance you'd mix up the hoses and fill it up with some lopstick lager. But no, seriously though, Dave's a good guy. It's good for him to open this up for everybody in Wabush.
There's no one left in Churchill Falls, but the power plant continues to produce. If the fire allows, a team will fly in and try and restore the power line to Western Labrador.
There's a reasonable probability that it's a switch, but there is always the possibility that it is a damaged piece of infrastructure. And the easiest thing to do at this point, when it is safe, is to try to reset the switch. If that doesn't work, then we'll have to wait until it's safe to actually do a full evaluation of the line itself.
For the hundreds of people who normally live and work in Churchill Falls, they're now waiting in other communities and hoping today's rain helps in the battle against the fire.
It's kind of numb right now, so to speak, because we can't believe this is actually happening to our small community. But it's great, and I hope that the weather do cooperate and Mother Nature finally dumps a load of water on Churchill Falls so we can get back to somewhat of a normal routine back in our community.
And we just got an update from Newfoundland and Labrador Hydro. That attempt to reset the line was successful. They were able to bring one power line back online from Churchill Falls, so most customers now have power. That means that the mines in Labrador West should be back in operation. And I'm told that right now it's only the data center, the landfill, and some cabins that are still without power. Reporting live from the newsroom, I'm Peter Cowan for Here and Now.
Well, connectivity and the power problem has been top of mind for the mayors of Wabush and Labrador City. Daryl Dinn spoke with both of them late this afternoon.
There's all kinds of issues that we had to work at here in Labrador West. Our cell phone coverage was terrible here the last 24 hours. I've been on the phone nonstop here all evening and day today. Today is not so bad, but yesterday, I'd say 90% of my calls were dropped, or I couldn't understand what people were saying to me. So that's another emergency issue that we got to address in future. If we have any issues like this, we don't need this problem. So Bell, just to let you know, you've dropped the ball on this one.
Was sort of in the back of your head that we could be losing power?
Yeah, absolutely. I think every day we talked about it was, okay, is this today, and it was stayed on the back of everybody's minds. 2013 was a scary time for people in Labrador West, and we don't forget that. It was a time when Wabush got evacuated and we all pulled together to get that done. And you could see it when you seen the lineups at the gas station, you seen the lineups even in the grocery stores today. I'm sure there's a lot of people needed groceries, needed gas, but we probably okay, what if it happened again? So you always keep that in the back of your mind. So that puts a little bit of panic and anxiety into people. But we stood strong and said, okay, let's keep this level-headed, do what we can to get out, and we will be okay.
You are a resident of Wabush. You currently don't have any power, but you did get to come over to the Salvation Army today for lunch. And I guess, how are things going in general?
I think they're going okay. I mean, we are not evacuated from our homes. We are not at risk of losing everything to a fire. So I'm sure the people of Churchill Falls are much more stressed than we are right now.
We had approximately, I'm thinking 40 people that came in. We served sandwiches, cookies, coffee, tea, juice, pop, and I've had a good number, I must say. I think they were very humbled and they very well appreciated what we had done. And actually, some gave us a donation on the way out and said, here's toward the Salvation Army, which we thought was very kind.
So the weather definitely top of mind as far as the fires go in Labrador. Now about 9.5 millimeters of rain has fallen so far in the Churchill Falls area. But if we take a look at the forecast over the next couple of days, definitely cooler weather ahead today. That cold front moving through, that's what's sparking those showers at the moment. The wind's favorable as well, northeasterlies. They're going to stay low, light, I should say, on Friday. Does look dry, though. Temperatures are slowly climbing, still around 16 degrees, though. But by the time we get into Saturday, slight chances some showers, but the winds pick up. We're looking at westerlies gusting anywhere from 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. So right now we've got that area of low pressure, that cold front like I was talking about, much colder air in that more northwesterly flow. Temperatures dropping to the single digits overnight tonight. And then, like I said, that rain moving through. So we'll see that rain move through tonight. Another round of showers tomorrow, possibly slight chance of showers, though, for those of you in Churchill Falls, or for the fires, rather, in Churchill Falls. But we do have some more rain on the way. We'll talk about that coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, the federal government is describing it as a historic announcement. There's an increase in the total allowable catch for cod in 2024. Ottawa is calling it the end of the cod moratorium. Critics say it's a mistake. Here now's Mark Quinn reports.
Yes, it is the end of the moratorium. More cod will come out of the water, and that means more fish moving through plants like this one in Arnold's Cove. We're the only plant in Newfoundland focused on North Atlantic cod production. That's all we've done since the moratorium. We invested $15 million in the plant between 2018 and 2020 to be ready for this. You know, we say we have the plant, the people, and the market, so a great day for us. Wareham had hoped for more, but supports the small increase. No one in the industry wants to return to a moratorium. We want to manage this going forward, take a slow approach, follow the science, and continue for this stock to grow. Before the moratorium in 1989, the total allowable catch for cod was 235,000 tons. In 1992, the moratorium cut that to 120,000 tons. Last year, the total allowable catch was about 13,000 tons, and with today's announcement, that increases to 18,000 tons, still less than a tenth of what it was before the moratorium.
It's the first real increase in quota to be allocated.
Liberal MP Ken MacDonald says it would be unwise to increase the catch to pre-moratorium levels. So is this move the end of the moratorium, as Ottawa calls it, or is this about politics and votes?
Definitely not. We've been talking about this in Ottawa for months, maybe a year ago or more, that we're seeing an increase in the state of the stock. And with an increase in the state of the stock, we should be allocating some of that to the fishers who can earn a living fishing cod again. So it had nothing to do with the election.
There's not more fish in the water, and we're not managing for growing this fishery.
Oceana Canada, a national group working to protect the country's fisheries, doesn't believe this decision was science-based.
In the announcement that the minister made, there is no reference to the scientific rationale for this decision. It is clearly short-sighted, as northern cod are projected to decline back into the critical zone in around 3 years. And that would, trigger rebuilding requirements, reducing fishing levels back to the lowest possible level.
Oceana Canada says the wise thing to do would have been to cut the total allowable catch in half to avoid returning cod to the critical zone. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, now to some news from the courts. Dean Penny's application for bail was denied in a Corner Brook courtroom this afternoon. Penny is charged with first-degree murder in the death of his estranged wife, Jennifer Hillier Penny. She was first reported missing in 2016 in St. Anthony. Justice George Murphy provided a lengthy decision in court today. While no details can be discussed because of a publication ban, the judge indicated Penny's detention is necessary. Penny has been at HMP in St. John's since his arrest last December.
I know that there'll be a few tears coming down. We all understand that this is a very serious job, very serious task.
We'll meet the young men and women bringing the unknown soldier back home. A special production is still ahead about a repatriation 100 years in the making.
It's been rainy across the island since Monday, really. We've got some more showers moving through. We'll talk all about that and get into your long-range forecast coming up.
Welcome back, Ashley. So how is the weather looking? Some good news, I guess, for Labrador. What's on the way?
Yeah, so about 9.5 millimeters of rain, like I said, has fallen in Churchill Falls, but a lot more than that has fallen across the island. Let's take a look at what's going on or has gone on since Monday. 95.8 millimeters of rain in St. Lawrence, really areas along the south coast and eastern Newfoundland, anywhere from 50 to 100 millimeters has fallen. That rain has since ended for now. Most of that has has ended across eastern Newfoundland, but we do have some showers rolling in for the western portion of the island. And again, that's out ahead of this cold front that is sweeping through Labrador, bringing some much needed rain, but also some much cooler temperatures, down to 7 degrees in Nain right now, 11 in Lab City. Temperatures in Churchill Falls as well, not reporting, the officials say not reporting, but temperatures down to about 12 degrees at the moment, and much cooler for Happy Valley Goose Bay as well. You topped out at about 31 degrees this afternoon, down to 22. Temperatures still sitting into the mid to upper 20s. Deer Lake, 26 degrees, but we do have that colder air further east, only about 14 or 15 degrees for eastern areas of the island. So we will see that cold front continue to sweep through tonight, dropping those temperatures, and in behind it with that northerly flow. So you'll see showers central and coastal areas of Labrador tonight. Otherwise, nothing really too nothing much going on tonight across the island, just a chance of some showers again for the northern peninsula, and then that will move through by the time we get into tomorrow morning. Eventually, the next round of showers moving in, which will likely be heavy at times. The showers will give way to rain for the western portion of the island. Same thing for central and southeastern portions of the Big Land. Now, we may see a few showers in behind that, but most of the rain will fall for southeastern portions of Labrador. And again, we will see that rain move east as we head into tomorrow. Likely late day for the Avalon, and maybe even through central as well as we get into Friday morning. And then another round of showers expected to move through. Again, some of these heavier at times. We could pick up 20 to as much as 30 or 40 millimeters of rain, and some of the heaviest rain for eastern areas of the island through the day on Friday. So we'll see a bit of relief from that rain tomorrow, but it will move right back in. Temperatures tonight will sit generally low teens, anywhere from 12 to 16 degrees. Northern Peninsula single digits, up across Labrador 2-3 degrees tonight. Otherwise about 7 degrees. Again, you're more in that northerly flow, whereas we're staying in the southerly flow across the island. And into tomorrow, that's again what we're looking at. Now, winds are going to pick up a little bit. Southwesterlies anywhere from 30 to 60 kilometers per hour. Those areas in onshore flow, though, along the south coast, again, only into the teens. Most of us should reach, though, anywhere from the low to mid 20s tomorrow afternoon. Up across Labrador, again, another cool day, 7 to 9 degrees for the north and west. And then we'll hang on to the teens just for a little while longer as we see that cold front move through, but about 12 to 17 degrees. Long range forecast showing things through the weekend, fairly quiet, actually pretty decent weekend, 18 to 21 degrees. Now for Memorial Day, Canada Day, does look a bit wet at this point, 22 degrees the forecast for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland. Central looking at a similar forecast with the weekend staying dry, but rain moving in by the time we get into Monday. And for Labrador, similar forecast. As far as Sunday is concerned, another round of showers moving in. Monday, you're looking at a temperature around 21 degrees. Rain, the story for Lab West by the time we get into Sunday, with a temperature into the teens, but warming up into Monday with some sunshine and a temperature near 19. Our weather photo of the day, great shot here of the hiking trails in Elliston. Thank you for that. Roland, if you have any weather photos that you would like to share with us, the best place to do that would be, you can send them to my Facebook page, but the best place to do that would email them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
We have a special presentation for you tonight. Thomas Nangle was chaplain to the Royal Newfoundland Regiment. More than 100 years ago, the Padre pushed for a soldier to be brought back from the battlefields and laid to rest here at home to represent all those who lost their lives in the First World War. Well, tonight, the CBC's Heather Gillis, along with video producers Chelsea Jacobs and Ted Dillon, follow a story that's a century in the making. Here's someone's son repatriating Newfoundland's unknown soldier.
The Somme Valley in northern France. Lush, green, peaceful today. But bombs, blood, and trenches a century ago made these farmers' fields a muddy hellscape. This is where the Royal Newfoundland Regiment fought. This is where many died. Never to return home. But home is calling one of them back. This is Thomas Nangle, the regiment's padre, later rising to the rank of lieutenant colonel. Nangle was Newfoundland's Director of War Grave Registrations and Inquiries, the country's representative on the Imperial War Graves Commission. Nangle tracked burials of the regiment's dead. Nangle wanted a Newfoundlander repatriated, calling for an unknown soldier to be brought home from the brutal battlefields in the St. John's Daily Star in December 1920. Just like the unknown warrior entombed in Westminster Abbey in London on November 11th that same year, Nangle wanted to choose the grave himself, a secret to be known to him alone. But Nangle's dream never came to be.
It's amazing, really, when you think about it, the work.
Until this man picked up the torch 100 years later.
I was the one who requested the repatriation.
Frank Sullivan kick-started a chain of events that will complete Nangle's vision and the National War Memorial in St. John's in 2024.
His dream will be fulfilled on July 1st. It's amazing to me.
For Sullivan, a 40-year Navy veteran, repatriating an unknown soldier is personal. His great-uncle, Private Charles Canning, served with the Royal Newfoundland Regiment in the First World War. Killed in 1918, Canning has no known grave.
And I was in the military when Canada brought home the remains of an unknown soldier, and in the foyer of Parliament buildings while he lay in state. Back in the First World War, Newfoundland was his own dominion within the British Commonwealth. In 1993, Australia brought home an unknown soldier. In 2000, Canada did. In 2004, New Zealand did. And in 2015, South Africa did. So why not Newfoundland?
The soldier brought home from Vimy Ridge is Canadian, not a Newfoundlander. That planted a seed in Sullivan.
So basically, the unknown soldier in Ottawa, God love him, doesn't represent the people of Newfoundland and Labrador.
Just as the COVID-19 pandemic stopped much of the world, Sullivan started work to repatriate an unknown soldier to Newfoundland and Labrador. A big ask, considering Canada already had one.
Now, Frank had already applied to the Veterans Affairs and got turned down to have an unknown soldier brought back to Newfoundland.
With Berkeley Lawrence, soon to be the Royal Canadian Legion's president, behind him, Sullivan was determined. Meanwhile, the Legion was working on something else, refurbishing the National War Memorial for its centennial anniversary, asking the provincial government for help.
And when we went into the meeting, we said to Frank, you can't say anything until we get our money. We get the memorial approved. So he pitched the idea to the Premier and told the Premier, you're the man to get this, make it happen. If you write a letter to the Prime Minister and to the Minister of Veterans Affairs, who knows? And here we are.
It was a meeting fellow Legionnaire Gary Brown won't forget.
I remember the Premier listening to us and turning to one of his ministers and said, make it happen.
And shortly thereafter, we got a reply back from the Minister of Veterans Affairs saying he supported the project and would give his staff any assistance we required on that project.
Still, repatriating the unknown soldier wasn't a done deal. The federal government, the provincial government, the Royal Canadian Legion needed to make a case to the organization that cares for the graves of 1.7 million soldiers in the world, the Commonwealth War Graves Commission.
They were well aware of what Newfoundland and Labrador wanted to accomplish and the reason behind it, a piece of unfinished business.
Unfinished business because Newfoundland was its own self-governing dominion of the British Empire in 1914, dragged into the First World War on August 4th, when Great Britain declared war on Germany. Newfoundland's governor, Sir Walter Davidson, promised to raise a regiment of 500 soldiers. They were known as the Blue Petits. Shipping out on the SS Florizel in October 1914. Ready for a big adventure.
And some of them thought it was a lark. Some thought, that the war would be over in a few months. That's what they believed in the beginning. And they'd get a chance to leave Newfoundland or Labrador and go overseas and see the world, and someone else will pay for it.
The regiment here, training in Scotland, transforming from a ragtag bunch into soldiers, fit for fighting. In all, about 6,200 served with the Royal Newfoundland Regiment during the war. 3,000 more were in the Naval Reserve, the Mercantile Marine, and the Forestry Unit. By the time the war ended in 1918, about 1,700 were dead after fighting for king and country.
Out of eligible males between the ages of 17 and 35 during the First World War, 35% of Newfoundlanders volunteered and served. That's over a third of our population at that time. So it's just heart-wrenching how many we've lost.
It's that sacrifice and history of independence the Commonwealth War Graves Commission considered when finally granting the request for an unknown soldier to represent all those Newfoundlanders killed.
We felt that it was a matter of justice for Newfoundlanders, and he represents those sons that never went home, those husbands, fathers, brothers that never went home, and it is a big symbol, it's a huge symbol for the Newfoundland.
All the more symbolic because the Commission says a transfer of remains like this one will likely never happen again. Up next, what went into choosing the unknown soldier and what was unearthed with his remains.
If you find anything in your field, in your backyard.
Bodies of 40 to 50 soldiers from the First and Second World War are discovered every year in France.
They have this kind of shape of headstone.
When that happens, the Commonwealth War Graves Commission here in Beaurain, France, gets the call. Craftsmen here create their headstones, aiming to give every soldier an equal burial, no matter differences in military rank or life circumstance. Soldiers from foreign lands aren't repatriated. Instead, buried closest to where they fell, in cemeteries that dot the French countryside, all along what was once the Western Front.
That means we are producing here all the headstones for all cemeteries in the world.
But only one headstone on this day in late May is grabbing attention. One that will mark the spot where the unknown soldier rested for more than 100 years. The original will go to the Rooms Provincial Museum in St. John's. This replacement gives a key detail about a man little will ever be known about. His exhumation date, May 13th, 2024. Before Newfoundland's unknown soldier could be selected, historian Melissa Davidson and her colleagues with the Department of Defense's Casualty Identification Program in Ottawa had to do their homework.
We really looked at everything from the large-scale movements of the regiment through France down to the movement of companies on the battlefield during particular actions, and even the particular individuals and where they might have ended up throughout the course of a day. So it was not only a large-scale search about the regiment itself, but also really about the men who made it up.
Normally, researchers like Davidson aim to name men killed in battle. But this time, the team is searching for a grave with a long list of candidates of who could be inside to help keep the unknown soldier's identity concealed. Sarah Lockyer spends a lot of time in cemeteries like these. She also works for the Department of National Defense and the military.
My job as Casualty Identification Coordinator is to try to identify any newly discovered skeletal remains that we think are possible Canadians who died during the First World War, the Second World War, and the conflict in Korea, so that we can identify them, bury them with their name, by their regiment, and in the presence of family.
Lockyer, a forensic archaeologist, did just that a few years back, gathering DNA that helped to identify this chap, 17-year-old Private John Lambert of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment, killed in Belgium in 1917. But in the case of the unknown soldier, Lockyer is doing the opposite. No DNA samples, no pictures, no identifying the remains.
He's there to represent all Newfoundlanders. And if we know who he is, he does not represent everybody.
The pool of candidates was small, the selection process secretive. From the First World War, only about 820 men from this province, serving in all branches of the military, have no known grave. Lockyer says they had to tread carefully.
We really had to ensure that we chose a grave that had a high number of candidates of who it could be, thereby reducing the likelihood that this individual could be identified through historical or archival research.
The names of nearly 600 men from the Royal Newfoundland Regiment alone are listed on this center plaque underneath the caribou here at Beaumont Hamel. All of them have no known grave. Some of them are buried in plots with a marker that says that they are an unknown soldier from Newfoundland, but not all of them could be candidates to become the unknown soldier. There were factors ruling out even entire cemeteries.
And this actually applies to all the cemeteries here on the site of Beaumont Hamel, which we had to eliminate all three of those cemeteries very quickly from the beginning for practical reasons. So there's a couple of examples in this cemetery where you have 2 individuals buried in one grave. One is Newfoundlander and one is from another regiment. Well, if there's 2 individuals in that grave, we can't exhume that grave because the remains might be mixed together or anything like that. So those were immediately eliminated from contention. So we have 2 examples here of identified Newfoundland Regiment soldiers, but you'll notice at the top of the headstone it's inscribed, believed to be buried in this cemetery. So that means that these are special memorials. It means that these individuals are not buried right here, but they are buried elsewhere in the cemetery. They just don't know exactly where they are. So because these special memorials exist in this particular cemetery, by exhuming an unknown in this cemetery, we could be inadvertently exhuming somebody who has been identified.
In the end, only 6 graves in 3 separate cemeteries had potential to hold the unknown soldier, narrowing down the pool to about 139 missing men. And as the digging started, the team discovered a crucial clue.
So as we were exhuming the remains, we did find a Newfoundland shoulder title with the remains.
A shoulder title similar to this. This one right here was unearthed with Private Lambert in 2017, still intact after a century, now on display at the Rooms Provincial Museum in St. John's. Fully dressed, this is what a Royal Newfoundland Regiment soldier like Lambert and the unknown soldier would have looked like. This uniform even survived the regiment's bloodiest battle at Beaumont Hamel. But that's not all Lockyer and the War Graves Commission's archaeologists found.
Dirt is what was there. There was a lot of dirt. But we found the human remains. There were small pieces of cloth from the uniform, but that tends to decompose rather quickly. So it's not uncommon to find pieces, but they're usually no bigger than something along those lines. His boots were there. We found his boots as well.
Surviving scraps placed in the soldier's casket to be interred along with him at the National War Memorial in St. John's on July 1st. Something that pleases Sullivan.
Because it's part of him. Everything that we're bringing home is part of him. And is he from St. Anthony? Is he from Bjorn? Is he from Calvert on the Southern Shore or Corner Brook? Nobody will know.
Stay with us. Up next, we'll hear from young pallbearers from the Royal Newfoundland Regiment about the weight of carrying their comrade, the unknown soldier. If there's one thing the military knows, it's drills. Step by step, the 6 selected to carry the unknown soldier carefully rehearse every motion. Day in, day out, in the week before the soldier was transferred back into the hands of his regiment.
Well, for me, this is probably going to be the most important event in my military career, and I am very, very honored to be a part of it.
You may only get half a day at the site.
Corporal Benjamin Roberts signed up 3 years ago for the Royal Newfoundland Regiment, proud to be chosen to carry the unknown soldier as a pallbearer, and following in the footsteps of family.
My great-grandfather, Corporal John Thomas Roberts, he was a part of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment in the First World War from 1917 to 1918. He joined right after the Battle of Monchy-le-Preux, where the regiment was decimated for a second time. So he was one of the people to replenish the 800 lost Newfoundlanders. He returned home with a wound to his left shoulder, a gunshot wound.
As a pallbearer, Roberts won't just carry the unknown soldier.
Well, I feel like I'm going to feel an immense amount of pride and also an immense amount of responsibility as I'm carrying this monumental casket which holds the unknown soldier.
Daniel Orich joined the regiment at 16, the same age as so many soldiers from 100 years ago. Orich will stand across from Roberts during the ceremony, linking arm in arm, supporting each other and the unknown soldier.
I was proud and honored to be put in the role. It's truly an honor as a Newfoundlander to be able to go out there and bring back a representation of all of the Newfoundlanders that weren't able to come back. To lay a soul to rest back here in Newfoundland, it's truly something to take at heart.
Right up into that area right there, okay?
In the classroom, it's the details, where to move and what will happen at Beaumont Hamel. For Orach and the bearer party, hours studying each part.
We finalized our drill movements. We're going to continue that days onward until the actual event to make sure that everything's perfect for the day of.
Preparing both physically and mentally for an emotional task.
I have tried to mentally fortitude myself, not to tear up, but I know that there'll be a few tears coming down. We all understand that this is a very serious job, very serious task, and we all want to go over, we all want to get this done. We all believe that this is very important.
Headdress bearer Corporal Alyssa Mason feels the same way.
For me, it's all about sacrifice. So I want to make sure that this member is laid to rest in their own soil so they can get the proper respect that they deserve.
It's a Wednesday morning in St. John's. After all the drills, all the planning, all the preparation, it's time to go to France. Leading the troop is Lieutenant Colonel Kyle Strong, the commanding officer of the Royal Newfoundland Regiment. It's a once-in-a-lifetime trip for everyone.
I'm immensely proud to say that I'm a part of this, beyond the capacity that I hold as the commanding officer, something beyond words, something that I could never explain, something that I could never adequately express, something that I could never have dreamed would have happened.
Just like the unknown soldier, Strong experienced combat, but in a different conflict, on a different continent, in a different time.
I deployed to Afghanistan almost immediately after 9/11. Went over in January of 2002.
It was there, after heavy fighting in the mountainous east, that Strong saved the life of another, after a chopper they were in lurched violently.
A couple of people ended up being thrown out of the helicopter, and we ended up airborne again. And there was an individual who ended up basically hanging off the edge of the ramp on the helicopter. So as we regained altitude, I moved out and grabbed onto one of the soldiers along with another another soldier who was on my right. And then essentially we formed a human chain behind me.
For that, Strong was awarded a medal for bravery, something he proudly wears on his chest. But he's humble about his heroism.
We had a soldier that was in danger, and everybody just, again, we acted like we were trained and we acted as a team.
Not only is Strong the leader of the modern-day regiment, but he has deep ties to the regiment of the past.
So I have a great-grandfather, Lance Corporal Aaron Strong, regimental number 2642, who I learned in 2016 served in the regiment and was wounded at Montchil-Preux on April 14th, 1917. It's a connection that before that time I wasn't aware of.
A connection found thanks to an old family friend. One that came with a special gift his great-grandfather left behind.
She said, I want you to go over my bottom drawer and bring out what's there. So as I opened the drawer, there were these 2 embroidered pieces there wrapped up in paper.
The caribou, the Royal Newfoundland Regiment's emblem, and another design, stitched by his great-grandfather's hand, here at the 3rd London General Hospital, kept safe for a century, passed from one generation to the next.
When I saw them, I was kind of taken aback. I really couldn't believe that these were, at the time, 100 years old, and they're in such good condition. It's kind of a strange feeling when you're able to pick it up and you're able to to realize that his hands made these and made them at such a dreadful time in his life.
The embroidery hangs on the wall at home. For Strong, a constant reminder of his connection to his great-grandfather.
I often wonder, would he have been proud of me to have said that I was his commanding officer? It's why I work so hard. It's why I really do everything I can, because I keep looking back and wondering, had we served at the same time, would he have been proud to have said that I was the commanding officer and I was his commanding officer?
And in a twist that might be fate, Strong's birthday and his father's is April 28th, the same date his great-grandfather enlisted in the regiment.
It just kind of brought everything home for me. When you realize that you have a link through time, that you have a link to a regiment that is so steeped in history and pride and honor.
Strong's great-grandfather, Lance Corporal Aaron Strong, survived the war, meaning there's no chance he could be the unknown soldier. Still, Strong can't help but feel a connection to the one being repatriated.
That one individual represents so much more than just himself. It's the chance for people to recognize that all Newfoundlanders, regardless of what branch of the military they were in, all of them played a part. All of them had a very important role to play. And just the fact that that one individual can represent them all, it's a very small token of our appreciation for what they do.
As loved our Father, so we loved. Where one say, stood we stand.
Standing at Beaumont Hamel on the morning of May 25th stood hundreds. The ode to Newfoundland carries across the battlefield. The anthem to the unknown soldiers' journey home.
Guard thee, God guard thee, Newfoundland.
For the men who made this happen, it's a day they've been dreaming about for years. The first steps of that journey start with the French military, carefully laying the soldier beneath the regiment's emblem, the caribou, perched on high, looking towards enemy lines, crying out over the battlefield for all the Newfoundland blood spilled here. 5 more identical statues stand in France, Belgium, and Turkey, making up the Trail of the Caribou, marking important sites where the Royal Newfoundland Regiment fought. Lasting memorials to those killed, the brainchild of Padre Thomas Nangle, who first called for an unknown soldier to be repatriated. Laying in a casket constructed with pieces of Newfoundland birch, the unknown soldier mere meters away from the plaque to the missing, where his name is likely embossed, as Padre Jeff Payne prayed over him.
We bring you home with honor and thankfulness, to the pine-clad hills, to the shortened days as the starlit night, and to the windswept land of Newfoundland and Labrador.
The unknown soldier wouldn't have recognized the Canadian flag dressing his casket, dying long before Confederation or Canada's adoption of the red maple leaf. Members of his regiment slowly lift him up, linking arm in arm for a long and winding procession to the hearse. Premier Andrew Furey, the soldier's ceremonial next of kin, represents his family, embracing his own son, Mark, who at 13 isn't much younger than some of those who fought here.
It was incredibly moving, historic, special, spiritual. To see the casket again and to be standing there with my son, realizing that somebody's son, our son, collectively, is now coming home was incredibly emotional. I broke down several times.
Closing the door on the hearse, a sense of finality and a surge of emotion for Frank Sullivan.
You requested repatriation. What was it like to witness it?
I don't know. Words fail me right now. It's a moment that I'll die with. What do you say when we're bringing a son home?
A son who is now spending his final moments on French soil. His pallbearers with another slow and steady march. Placing his casket onto a lift, loading him into a Canadian government airplane. 100 years ago, he sailed to these shores. Today, he's flying home. Near Newfoundland, an escort. 2 CF-18 fighter jets who had a special message for the unknown soldier.
It is our honor and privilege to be part of this extremely important mission today. As you enter Canadian sovereign airspace and the airspace above Newfoundland and Labrador, we are here to stand guard, escorting the remains of a true Canadian hero that gave his life more than a century ago. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. We stand on guard for thee.
Meanwhile, back in St. John's, anticipation building for the unknown soldier's arrival. Hundreds hung outside the airport gates, watching, waiting. The soldier could be connected to any one of these people, and that's why they're here. Saturday evening, in the sky above St. John's, gray cloud and fog lifted, just in time for the unknown soldier's approach. Finally, he's home. Meanwhile, across town, at the home of the regiment, on the shores of Kitty Vitty Lake, where the unknown soldier trained 100 years ago, the regiment is readying for this moment. A long-awaited homecoming. For the last 100 years, this is where veterans, their families, and people across the province have stood to remember all Newfoundlanders and Labradorians killed in battle. This July 1st, they'll be standing here for the unknown soldier.
You've been watching Someone's Son, a special CBC presentation in honor of the 100-year celebration of the National War Memorial. Now, this Friday, the unknown soldier will be lying in state at Confederation Building in St. John's. We'll have special coverage of that event in the lead up to July 1st. We'll also bring you highlights from the Memorial Day ceremony on Mondays here and now, and that will be hosted by Heather Hiscox. Well, thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us. We hope you can join us again tomorrow. Good night.